Leo lived in a world of whispers. Not whispers from other people, but the constant, quiet murmur of his own thoughts. They were not kind whispers. They said things like, "You can't. They're all better than you. And what if you fail?" This inner voice was his constant companion, a shadow that followed him everywhere. It made his shoulders slump and his eyes drop to the floor when he walked. At work, he had brilliant ideas but kept them locked in his head, afraid they would sound foolish. In social situations, he'd stand in a corner, praying no one would try to talk to him. Leo's world was small, safe, and deeply lonely. One Saturday, desperate for a distraction, he visited a dusty old antique shop tucked away on a quiet street. He wasn't looking for anything in particular. As he browsed, an old man with kind eyes and a carpenter's rough hands approached him. "Searching for something?" the man asked, his voice warm. "Just looking," Leo mumbled, shoving his hands in his pockets. The old man nodded. "Sometimes we find what we aren't looking for. My name is Elias." Elias showed Leo a beautiful, hand-carved wooden box. "This is a puzzle box. It doesn't open with a key. To unlock it, you must solve it. It's said to hold a great secret inside." Intrigued, Leo bought it. For days, the box sat on his coffee table. He'd pick it up, turn it over, press on various panels, but nothing happened. It was solid, unmoving, and frustrating. It reminded him of himself, locked tight. Finally, after a week of failure, he went back to the shop. "I can't open it," he confessed to Elias. "It's impossible." Elias smiled. "The box isn't the puzzle. You are. Tell me, what is the first thing you must do to solve a physical puzzle?" Leo thought. "I guess you have to believe it can be solved." "Exactly," Elias said. "That is the first piece of confidence, the belief that it is possible. If you don't believe you can do something, your feet are set in concrete before you even take a step. You must plant the flag of possibility in your own mind." This struck a chord in Leo. He went home and looked at the box not as an enemy, but as a challenge he could overcome. He started to believe, truly believe, he could open it. The next day, he tried a new approach. Instead of random poking, he observed the box. He noticed the subtle differences in the wood grains. He saw one small panel that was slightly smoother than the others, worn down by the touch of countless fingers before his. He focused all his attention on that one spot. After a few minutes of gentle pressure and wiggling, there was a soft click. The panel slid sideways, revealing a hidden compartment underneath. Inside wasn't a treasure, but a small, folded piece of paper. On it was written a single word: focus. Leo felt a tiny spark inside his chest. It was a small victory, but it was his. He returned to Elias, beaming. "I did it! I found a clue." "What did you learn?" Elias asked. "I learned that when I stopped trying everything at once and focused on one small, manageable part, I made progress." "That is the second piece," Elias said. "Mastery through small wins. Confidence isn't built by climbing a mountain in one leap. It is built by laying one brick perfectly, then another. Celebrate the tiny successes. Each one is a proof to yourself that you are capable." Inspired, Leo started applying this to his life. At work, instead of aiming to lead a huge meeting, his goal was to just speak up once. He focused on that one small task. When his boss asked for ideas on a project, Leo's heart hammered in his chest, but he remembered the click of the puzzle box. He took a breath and said one single sentence. His idea was noted and appreciated. It was another small win. The puzzle box with the first panel open now had a new set of hidden seams visible. This next part was trickier. It required him to slide 3 thin wooden pieces in a specific sequence. He tried one sequence. Failure. He tried another. Failure. He failed 10 times. Frustration began to creep back in. He was about to give up when he remembered the feeling of his small win at work. He decided to see each failed sequence not as a failure, but as learning what didn't work. On the 15th try, he heard another, louder click. A whole section of the box swung open. Inside was another note. This one said, "Action defeats fear." He practically ran to Elias's shop. "Action defeats fear," he announced. Elias chuckled. "You've discovered the third piece. Confidence is a verb. Fear and anxiety grow in the quiet space between thinking and doing. The moment you take action, you shrink the fear. It doesn't matter if the action is perfect. The very act of doing tells your brain, I am in control. You are no longer a passive passenger. In your life, you are the driver. Leo started taking more action. He initiated a conversation with a colleague. He signed up for a weekend cooking class he'd always been curious about. Each action, no matter how small, felt like pumping iron for his self-confidence muscle. The whispering voice in his head was still there, but it was getting quieter, drowned out by the sound of his own actions. The box was now more than half open, but the final mechanism was the most complex. It was a labyrinth of tiny, interlocking gears. He spent hours trying to align them. He would get so close only for one gear to slip and ruin the whole setup. He felt the old impatience rising. One evening, after another failed attempt, he just sat with the box. He stopped fighting it. He looked at the intricate gears and realized they weren't meant to be forced. They needed to be understood. He needed to be patient and gentle. He took a night off, slept, and came back to it the next day with fresh eyes. This time he moved the gears slowly, with care and respect for the mechanism. They slid into place perfectly. The final clunk was the most satisfying sound he had ever heard. The lid of the box opened fully. Inside, resting on a bed of velvet, was the final note. It read, "Be kind to yourself." When Leo showed Elias the fully opened box, he felt like a different man. His posture was straighter. His eyes met Elias's and held them. "The final and most important piece," Elias said softly. "Unshakable self-compassion. The world will knock you down. You will make mistakes. The unshakable part of confidence isn't about never falling. It's about how you talk to yourself when you do. If your inner voice is a cruel critic, every failure will shatter you. But if it is a kind friend, a voice that says, 'It's okay, you tried. Let's learn from this,' then no failure can ever truly break you. Your foundation becomes flexible and strong, like a tree that bends in the wind but does not snap." Leo understood. He had spent his entire life being his own worst enemy. The puzzle box hadn't given him confidence. It had guided him to build it himself, piece by piece. 1. The belief it is possible. He had to believe he could change. 2. Mastery through small wins. He proved his capability through tiny, consistent successes. 3. Confidence is a verb. He took action, which silenced his fear. 4. Unshakable self-compassion. He learned to be his own friend, not his own bully. Months later, Leo was almost unrecognizable. He spoke up in meetings with clarity. He went on dates. He even gave a presentation to a room full of people, something the old Leo would have considered a nightmare. The whispers were gone, replaced by a quiet, steady hum of self-assurance. He visited Elias one last time to thank him. The old shop was empty, with a "for lease" sign on the door. On the doorstep was a small, familiar object, the puzzle box. Pinned to it was a final note from Elias. The box was never the source. The source was always you. Now that you have found it, pass the key to someone else who needs to hear the whisper of their own strength. Keep building. Leo picked up the box, a solid reminder of the journey he had taken. He didn't need it anymore. His confidence was no longer locked away in a wooden container. It lived in his breath, his bones, and his belief in himself. It was unshakable because he had built it, and he knew with unwavering certainty that he could build anything.